Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is PBM or Polar Bear Mike. Today I'm going to be going over another God guide for everybody. On our last video, which was for Amaterasu support, I told you guys to go ahead and leave a comment on what god you would like to see next. At the time of making this video, that was Fafnir was the highest vote, so here I am working on the Fafnir guide for you guys. We're going to go over his build, how to play him in laning phase, team fights, what all of his abilities do, what you should max first, second, third, fourth, so on, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get into it. So to start us off again, we're going to go over the builds. I saw a few of you mention on the Amaterasu video that you weren't quite sure what to build in terms of like a 6-item build and not quite sure what to build on support. For the sake of keeping these videos short, I'm not going to go into this in depth. I do have a build guide and an entire item guide on every single support item in the game. So if you guys want more information, I'll put the link of that video in the description and you can go check that out. But for Fafnir, pretty simple, all the normal stuff. You're looking at all of your auras. Fafnir can be very aggressive, so you're looking at stuff like Stone of Binding. Voidstone can also be very good situationally. Shield of Regrowth is also another good one. Keep in mind that because your Shield of Regrowth procs off of your 2, that you can actually chase down targets very easily with this. It'll also give you great cooldown reduction with your stuns in your ultimate, so you can get multiple rounds of your 1 and your 3 off. So Shield of Regrowth is a great selfish item for Fafnir, but keep in mind after the nerfs that the movement speed and the health is really the only defense you get from this, so be very mindful of how you're using your 2, because if you need it for the movement speed exclusively, you may not just want to throw it out there off cooldown like you normally would on Fafnir, so make sure you're paying attention to that proc. The only other situational item that probably differs on Fafnir compared to most Guardians is Shogun's Kasari, and the reason I think this value has, or this item has extra value on Fafnir is because he can give his entire team an attack speed steroid with his Coerce already, and we'll go over that a little bit later in the video, but he does very well at giving his entire team a lot more attack speed and shredding objectives, and Shogun's Kasari amplifies that effect even more and makes it really, really strong on Fafnir, so it's definitely an item you want to consider buying. But as I mentioned, most games you're just going to look at your standard aura items. As it goes into boots, you can kind of go whatever you want. I prefer to go reinforced shoes. You can also go traveler shoes on Fafnir. Cooldown shoes are also good on Fafnir, and that's just your basic rundown normal stuff. Alright, so I'm going to take you guys into jungle practice to talk about Fafnir's passive. As you can see, I have it paused here when minions are coming out. So, Fafnir's passive is Endless Greed, and what this basically does is, anytime you would get gold from, like as a Fafnir from farm, so any minion kill, you are going to get 2 additional gold for that minion, and it's basically like a mini Watcher's gift effect. So Fafnir has extremely good farm because he's able to just get more gold from doing the same amount of farm and the same amount of work as every other support. And then on top of this, as Fafnir is getting this gold, for how much gold he has left, or how much gold he's holding while he's out of base, he gains protection. So right now, since I'm in jungle practice, this is stacked all the way up, and you can see that it's giving me the full 20 magical and physical protections. And as you can see here, I'm just standing around these creeps, and you're seeing plus 17 gold and then another plus 2. So for every time I get any assist or any gold on a creep, even if you kill the creep, you can last hit the creep, and you see there it was 18 gold for last hitting the archer, and then plus 2, and then it was plus 12, and then plus 2 for not last hitting the archer. So because of that, Fafnir is very good at farming. He also is very tanky the longer, well, not the longer you stay out of base. You don't want to stay out too long, but he can be very tanky if you just have anywhere from 500 to however much gold out of base, and you're just waiting to back. He does gain a little bit of tankiness, so you don't feel like you're getting punished as much for staying out of base longer on Fafnir, which is nice. Alright, so now that we've gone over Fafnir's passive, we're actually going to go over his ultimate first, which is Draconic Corruption. The reason we're going to go over the ult first is that it's very important to understand what Fafnir's ultimate is all about. It's the core of his kit, so making sure that you kind of understand fully what this ability does before I talk about the rest of his kit is very important. So Fafnir's ultimate, Draconic Corruption, will make him transform into a dragon. As you transform into a dragon, you first enter your dragon state. You will be untargetable, so you can't be damaged or crowd controlled. However, if you were hit by a damage over time before you transform, so say you get hit by a Cacophon Tornado or a Jean Kui card, then if you start transforming while that effect is already on you, you will still take the remainder of that damage. So you can't, if you're like 50 HP and you're hit by a dot effect and you try to alt to immune the damage, it will not work. You will die in your alt. So I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to press 4, transform into the dragon. I can't be CC'd or damaged during that. The main thing to note while you're in dragon form is it modifies all 3 of your other abilities, your 1 through your 3. It also makes it so that your auto attacks become dragon breath. As you can see, the range is pretty long. This is max range right here, just about. And you can pump out a ton of damage. As you can see, the auto attacks are also much quicker than they would be if you were in your normal state. And the other very, very, very important thing to note about Fafnir's ultimate is that it will reset the cooldowns of your 1 through your 3 while you both enter dragon form and leave dragon form. So for example, if I use my 1 right now and then I leave dragon form, my 1 is on a fresh cooldown when I leave dragon state. So that is something that you definitely want to take advantage of. It is very important to make sure that before and after you ult, you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your kit and you're putting those abilities on cooldown before you reset them so that you can do as much as you possibly can in a team fight. And now we'll go over the rest of Fafnir's abilities so that you understand how to further take advantage of those cooldowns. So now we'll talk about Fafnir's 1, Curse Strength. This is a line skill shot ability that will pass through minions, dealing damage to every single minion it hits. And it will also stun an enemy god. I'll go show you that now. But this is the ability you will pick up first. This is also the ability that you will max first. This is going to be your first ability to reach 5 points. So I showed you it goes through minions. If you go over to a god here, it will stun, but only on the first god hit, so it can be body blocked. And then you see that little pulse that resonates out after you hit a god will actually put a slow out on any enemy god in that area, including the person who got hit by the stun. So I'm going to go ahead and show you again. I'm going to throw this out. It's going to stun the Odin and put the slow on him, and you can see the slow effect is still active right there. I'm going to go ahead and hit level 5, and you will see what it does in dragon form. So in dragon form, the ability changes a little bit. It's still going to stun. It's still a single line skill shot. It will still go through minions. However, if I hit the Odin, not only will it stun and slow, it will also have a damage over time effect. You can see that 56 right there. It will also give them a protection debuff on any target hit by his 1. So that is static throughout all ranks of your 1. As soon as you get your ultimate, if you hit your 1 on somebody in dragon form, 20% of their protections will be shredded. This makes Fafnir very effective at killing tanky targets, and it is something that you really want to be aware of exactly what your 1 can do, and you want to make sure that you're not throwing these cooldowns out randomly, and that you want to make sure that if you can get your 1 on a tanky target, or if another tank or support or soul laner is out of position, you can really punish them with Fafnir's ult. Fafnir's second ability is Coerce. What this is a single target buff that you place on any ally. So you'll see here we're about to start Gold Fury against United. I go ahead and I use my Coerce on Oceans. What that will do is give him extra attack speed and damage. And when you're in dragon form, as you'll see here in a second, that buff becomes, instead of single target, it will affect an entire area of people, and it will affect everybody in the area, giving your entire team a attack speed and damage buff. As you can see right there, I used it on the ground. It was that little green targeter, and now my entire team has extra attack speed and damage. This is an insane ability at burning objectives, burning towers, Gold Fury, any stuff like that. And in a team fight, if you hit your entire team with this ability, the amount of damage a team with Fafnir and their comp can put out is absolutely ridiculous. So pretty straightforward ability, damage and attack speed buff. This ability will also heal yourself whenever you use it. So if you buff somebody else, it will heal you, and this can also proc Shield of Regrowth. Fafnir's third ability is Underhanded Tactics. What this is a jump with a cone at the end of it. So you will jump to the targeted location, and as you land, you will deal damage as well as disarm any targets that you hit. And the interesting thing about this ability is that if you want to cast this in front of you and you don't actually want to jump, if you aim your camera all the way down, it will actually anchor to you. So if I press my 3 right here instead of jump, I'll just disarm anybody in front of me right here and deal a little bit of damage. So This ability will be the ability you often pick up second at level 2. You can pick it up at level 3 if you'd rather get your Coerce at level 2 to do a little bit more damage, but normally you want to get your 3. It's your escape. It's a very fast escape too. The cast time of this jump is really quick, has basically no delay at all. It's very good at getting yourself out of bad situations, and it's a pretty far jump. When you go into Dragon Form, the way this ability is modified is instead of disarming, it will stun a single target, which will be the target closest to Fafnir. Similar to the one, it will also place a damage over time effect on them, as you can see now. But in addition to stunning a single target, it will also give its normal benefit of disarming anybody else who also gets hit by it. So, a very, very good escape and stun in his dragon form. Has very underrated CC in normal form. The disarm really can do a lot to impact a team fight. It's also very good in laning phase. We'll go over that a little bit later, but you can really slow down an opponent's clear with this. I'm actually going to reset the dragon cooldown to show you something else. So I'm going to stand right here on the center, and I'm going to jump away, and let's see where I land. I'm not going to press W or anything. So I jump away. Here's where I land. I go into dragon form, so my ability is modified and everything, but look how much further I jump. Instead of landing in the center, it actually doesn't look that much longer because jungle practice is so big, but it is a much, much longer jump, and the extra range can really help you chase targets down with the stun, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So now that we've gone over all of Fafnir's abilities and his build, let's talk about his laning phase. So, early game, as I mentioned, you're going to pick up your stun on your 1 at level 1, just so there's no confusion with the stun and 3. Obviously, you don't have Dragon Form at level 1. So, you're going to pick up your 1 at level 1. This ability does clear really well. It does a lot of damage. It can hit the entire wave. The issue is that since it stops on the first God hit, you can get this ability body blocked, so opponents with better clear than you, if they play around Fafnir correctly, they can actually beat you in lane. However, right here against United, Terra Shablanque, certainly not one of the lanes that can outclear Fafnir. So if you can get away with just one in the entire wave, you clear very well. You also have great jungle buff clear, so in certain matchups, Fafnir can be very dominant in lane. Even if you don't win lane and you don't outclear, you're very, very strong at fighting because your stun and your slow at level 1 can lock a target down for a very long time, let you get a lot of auto attacks off on them with you and whichever other teammate is also near you. And other than that, pretty simple early game. You just get your 1 and then you get your 3 at level 2. I would recommend getting your 2 at level 3. So at level 3 you should have all 3 of your abilities. The reason I recommend this is that if you do stun a target, buffing your hunter will make you do a ton of damage. If you're purely looking for clear, it might be a little bit better. Why can't I speak English? It's a little bit better to maybe put a point in your 1. It's also a little more mana efficient, but I kind of go back and forth. You can mess with that yourself game to game. You definitely want to make sure that at level 4 you have all 3 of your abilities. The reason for this is once you enter Dragon Form, you want to make sure that you have your area of effect Coerce available to you. That is a huge part of the damage in your kit. It amplifies everybody's auto attack speed, your own damage if you hit yourself with it. It is just a huge spike of damage, and you want to make sure that's available, so never ever skip your level 4 point. Other than that, pretty simple early game with Fafnir. Because of his passive, you can just passively out farm other gods, so you don't have to feel like you have to be super aggressive early, even though Fafnir can do that. As you can see right now, Pain's level 3, we're level 4, and just a single stun onto him, along with my steroid on Oceans, gives us a free kill in lane, and there's really nothing Pain could have done right there. Fafnir, if you catch a target out of position, he is so good at capitalizing on that with his team, and just taking down target after target. Fafnir's weaknesses are that he doesn't have area of effect crowd control. It's all single target stuns. But once you can isolate a target, you can really poke them out and force actives and deal a ton of damage. The other part of Fafnir's early game that's very important, which is what I'm about to show you right now in this game, is the early Gold Fury potential. Because of your steroid on your Taurus and the Dragon form being able to place a dot. So I go ahead and I jump over to pull the Gold Fury. I steroid Oceans. Even though we have to leash, I go into Dragon form. I deal more damage to Gold Fury. I get to stun people coming in. Pain's up, so now I get to jump stun him. And now I have my area of effect Coerce to give to all 4 members of our team around. And now we can just shred this Gold Fury. It doesn't look like it's happening that fast, but for an early game Gold Fury, this is actually such an insane play to be able to pull off with Fafnir, just because of my ultimate right there, along with, you know, obviously my team using all of their abilities well. We're able to get 2 kills and a Gold Fury at 3 minutes, and this basically just busts the game wide open. So you want to make sure you're looking for those abilities in the early game as Fafnir. Farm up, look for people that are out of position, get your single target stuns on them, be with your team, and just shred them down. Team fights with Fafnir is really just more of the same. I'm going to show you guys 2 examples of team fights with Fafnir against Noble here in the SPL. So, a couple things to note in team fights: because you can auto-immune CC and damage with your Dragon form, you want to make sure that you're using that to really swing fights and either immune damage on yourself or stop an enemy engage on yourself or whatever. You also want to make sure that, like I mentioned, your Dragon form resets your cooldown, so you want to use your stun and your Coerce in normal form before you ult if you can, and then once you're in your ult, just try to get as many cooldowns off as you can. Obviously, don't just throw stuff out to throw stuff out, but the more cooldowns you get off in your ult, the stronger your team fight is. As you can see right here, Noble goes through the Portal Demon, they end up killing Weaken, and we have to fall back. I go back to Peel. This is something that Fafnir isn't the greatest at, but because Fafnir does so much damage, if you're around your team, your type of Peel is basically just killing people and making sure you're around everybody. So we turtle up, Cyclone gets a good ult, and now we're just pushing forward together. I have my Dragon form so we can shred anybody. We're just looking for whatever target we can get, and you're able to just turn fights very well. What you also see in that fight is that I went ahead and I used my ultimate on top of Oceans, so that if El Chapo chose to dive in on him, that he would come into my ult, so I would be able to turn on him with my stuns and also the dot damage from my ult. And then really just as Fafnir, you're looking to find any good opportunity you can. I'm going to take you to the second team fight, which is here right before the end of the game. Because your ult is so powerful, all you need is one good engage like this. I see everybody on Noble grouped up. We go ahead and stun Wubbin, he's a little out. I go ahead and I disarm their ADC and their Vamana. I ult on top of Cyclone. We end up killing Wowie extremely quickly. We have everybody caught out in the corridor. My entire team is grouped up, so I get to give everybody my steroid. And now we just get to chase everybody down because I have so many single target stuns. You can go ahead and buff Oceans there. He has a ton of attack speed and he just shreds Uzi, and even if Uzi didn't die there, my stun or my jump would have caught him and then I could have won them. And now that we did win that team fight so quickly just by one good stun and one good engage by myself and Cyclone, you get to use your steroid on everybody. You can see how fast this Phoenix is falling. We have no minions and we can just siege their base and burn it down extremely quickly, and then all it takes is one late game team fight and you can just win the game. Fafnir's ult is so insane at putting out a ton of damage and taking advantage of people walking out of position. And that's really the entire guide. That's what you're looking for. And that's it for Fafnir, guys. That's the entire guide. I try to go a little bit more in depth with this one because Fafnir has so many mechanical nuances about him that are really important to understand. So I hope I did a good job describing those as well as I could have to everybody so that you understand it. Go ahead and leave in the comments what you would like to change about the video, if there's anything I personally could have done better to make it a better video for you. And of course, go ahead and leave in the comments what god you would like to see next. I'm going to try to get a few more of these god guides out. I don't know how often. I'd like to do 2 a week. I'm kind of slacking this week. I was hoping to get this video out a little bit earlier than today. But nevertheless, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it was a good one. And go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thanks.